Millionaire takes mistress to the spa. Pregnant wife follows them and finds the truth. They say trust is the fragile foundation on which love stands. But what happens when a woman who has given her entire heart, her faith, and the promise of tomorrow to her husband suddenly suspects betrayal? Meet Catherine Saunders, a radiant mother-to-be who senses the cold grip of deception creeping into her once happy marriage. Rumors swirl that her wealthy husband, Sebastian, has been seen at an exclusive spa with a mysterious woman at his side. Fueled by heartache and desperation, Catherine embarks on a journey of discovery, unaware that the truth she's chasing might unravel every belief she's ever held dear. Catherine Saunders felt a flutter in her belly, a movement from the tiny life growing inside her, and her heart soared for a moment. Ever since she'd discovered she was pregnant, she'd dreamed of cradle lullabies and the delighted laughter of a child. The Saunders name was not a mere family name. It was a dynasty in the making, anchored by Sebastian Saunders, her husband, and the master of their estate. Sebastian was not just any successful man. He was a millionaire businessman with powerful connections in real estate, technology, and finance, making him one of the city's most sought-after magnates. Like many wives in their social circle, Catherine had been raised to appreciate the privileges that came with such a marriage: the lavish galas, the exclusive dinners, and the community of high society influencers. Yet, in her heart, Catherine had never wanted anything more than a loving, stable family life. She craved real emotional intimacy, a sense of belonging that couldn't be bought or sold. In recent weeks, however, Catherine felt an unsettling chill in her home. Sebastian had become distant, frequently staying out late, traveling without explanation, answering phone calls in hushed tones behind locked doors. At first, she dismissed these changes. After all, men like Sebastian lived complicated lives, their business dealings often at the whim of late-night negotiations or discreet partnerships. Catherine's inner circle of friends, including a warm-hearted confidant named Sophia Carter, reassured her that Sebastian was simply occupied with urgent deals that would secure their future. But the doubts came anyway. Catherine found herself staring at a single hairpin on Sebastian's nightstand. It wasn't hers. She wore short, cropped hair that left little room for pins or ribbons. She tried to rationalize it. Perhaps it belonged to their housekeeper, Harriet White, or maybe it had simply fallen out of a visitor's pocket during the last dinner party. Yet something about the foreign accessory clashed with her sense of order and security. Even more telling were the rumors swirling through the exclusive circles of Oakbridge City. Whispers suggested that Sebastian had been spotted more than once at a private spa called the Velvet Magnolia with a beautiful brunette. The Velvet Magnolia was a clandestine retreat located in an unmarked building near the upscale Riverview district. It catered to the wealthiest clients who demanded anonymity and the finest treatments. If Sebastian was taking a mysterious woman there, it would not only be a breach of marital trust, but a scandal that could ruin the family's reputation. Catherine's struggle began quietly. Each rumor, each stray thought chipped away at her peace. She would remember their first date back when she was just Catherine Belmont, an aspiring interior designer, and how Sebastian had looked at her with admiration glowing in his eyes. She thought about that magical day he proposed at the rooftop of the luxurious Grand Mistral Hotel, the softness in his voice, the vow of eternal devotion. Where had all of that gone? One morning, as Catherine sipped tea in their sunlit conservatory, Harriet White, the housekeeper, approached gently. In Harriet's hand was a sleek black business card embossed with gold lettering that read, "The Velvet Magnolia. Appointment SS Saunders. Tuesday 3:00 p.m. Harriet had found it on the living room table. Catherine's heart lurched. Without Harriet spelling it out, she understood the unspoken question in the older woman's worried eyes. Did Sebastian usually leave such items lying around? Did Catherine know about this appointment? When Harriet left, Catherine closed her eyes, pressing the card to her chest. Every nerve in her body told her that this was the sign she'd been dreading. Sebastian was planning a visit to the Velvet Magnolia at 3:00 p.m. on Tuesday. If the rumors were to be believed, he would not be going alone. She thought of confronting him outright, but pride and an underlying fear of what direct questions might reveal held her back. Instead, Catherine decided to confide in her closest friend, Sophia Carter, a woman known for her level-headed wisdom. Sophia was a beloved figure in Oakbridge's philanthropic circles and had once volunteered at the Velvet Magnolias fundraiser, giving her a sliver of insight into how that private spa operated. That evening, Catherine carefully placed the business card in her diary and tried to coax Sebastian into conversation over dinner. He was polite, but his warmth felt forced, distant. He spoke about a possible business merger with the Martinelli Corporation and asked how Catherine was feeling during her pregnancy. She answered, forcing a smile and nod, while inside she was shriveling under the weight of suspicion. She said nothing of the spa or the rumors, telling herself that if Sebastian was guilty, confronting him would only make him hide his affair deeper. If he was innocent, she didn't want to cast unwarranted aspersions. Yet, as the night wore on, Catherine lay awake in the darkness, listening to her husband's steady breathing. She realized with a pang that love, for all its power, could be overshadowed by fear. For the first time, she considered following Sebastian an act that felt almost like a betrayal of her principles. But if there was another betrayal going on, she deserved to know. A few days later, Catherine and Sophia met for lunch at the refined Orchid Terrace Cafe. Located on the top floor of the Willowstone Tower, the cafe was known for breathtaking panoramic views of Oakbridge City. Catherine and Sophia sat at a corner table overlooking the shimmering river, a gentle breeze fluttering the white tablecloth beneath their plates of fresh salad and artisan bread. Sophia looked stunning as always, wearing a cobalt blue sheath dress that highlighted her graceful figure. More than her poise, though, she was renowned for her perceptive nature. When she saw Catherine's tense shoulders and the anxious glimmer in her eyes, her smile faded. "Catherine, dear, you look troubled," Sophia said softly. "Is it the pregnancy or something else?" Catherine sighed, pressing a hand gently against her belly. "It's Sebastian," she admitted. I think he might be seeing someone else. And I have a hunch it has to do with this spa, the Velvet Magnolia." Sophia's eyes widened. "Oh, Catherine, are you certain?" "I don't know," Catherine mumbled, tears threatening to spill over. "I found a hairpin in our bedroom. There are rumors, and Harriet gave me one of his business cards for an appointment there." Sophia reached across the table, laying a comforting hand over Catherine's. "I've been to that spa once, for a charity event. Security is extremely tight. They don't let walk-ins simply roam around. Most of their clients have a membership, or they're accompanied by a sponsor. Everything is hush-hush, so discretion is guaranteed." Despite her turmoil, Catherine managed a small, bitter laugh. That's exactly the kind of place Sebastian would choose if he wanted to hide something. "I've decided I need to see for myself. I don't think I can live with the uncertainty." Sophia nodded. "You must follow your heart. But whatever you do, be careful. If you do see them together, it might unravel more than you expect." Before they parted, Sophia promised she would be available at any time for support. Catherine clung to that promise, feeling slightly fortified by her friend's solidarity. Yet, as she watched the city skyline shimmering under the midday sun, Catherine could not rid herself of the creeping dread that her illusions of a happy family might soon be shattered. Over the next few days, Catherine's world felt surreal. She attended a garden fundraiser organized by the Albright Foundation, where she mingled with socialites named Veronica Campbell and Lorelei Hastings, both women known for their insatiable appetite for gossip. Catherine normally avoided their petty chatter, but now she found herself listening keenly, hoping to glean any stray snippet about Sebastian. She discovered that Veronica had spotted Sebastian dining at Le Chateau, a Michelin-starred restaurant, with a tall, elegant brunette just 2 nights ago. Another whisper was that he had cancelled a scheduled trip to Boston without informing Catherine. When confronted with these rumors, Catherine smiled politely, feigning confidence she didn't possess. On the car ride home, she stared at her reflection in the tinted window, a million questions bubbling inside her. Was she being paranoid, or was Sebastian pulling away from her deliberately? Despite the heartbreak, she maintained her composure in public, mindful of how quickly the rumor mill could crush someone's reputation. She feared that if Sebastian was indeed involved with another woman, Catherine's soon-to-be-born child might be entering a broken home. The feeling of helplessness weighed heavily on her heart. Still, there was a kernel of determination. She would find out the truth herself before making any drastic decisions. The evening before Sebastian's fateful spa appointment, Catherine waited in the living room, lights dimmed, holding a book she had no intention of reading. When Sebastian returned home, his posture looked tense. He set down his briefcase and mumbled a greeting, glancing at Catherine as if trying to measure her mood. "Long day?" she asked softly. He nodded, removing his tie. "Yes, I had back-to-back meetings. How are you feeling, Cat? Everything okay?" He used his favorite nickname for her, a whispered ghost of their old intimacy. She forced a smile. "The baby's been active. I'm doing fine, though." Her voice faltered, wrestling between fear and the yearning for honesty. She recalled her vow to investigate rather than confront. "I've been a bit restless, missing our old times." Sebastian's eyes flickered with something: guilt, sorrow, or maybe just exhaustion. "I promise things will be calmer once the Martinelli deal is finalized," he said, stepping forward to place a hand gently on her shoulder. "I'm sorry I've been so busy." Catherine exhaled, leaning into his touch even though it felt half-hearted. The clock on the mantel chimed, signaling the late hour, and Sebastian excused himself. She sat there, motionless, until she heard the click of their bedroom door closing. Then, steeling her resolve, she rose and made her way upstairs to her private study. The plan was simple. She would discreetly follow Sebastian to the Velvet Magnolia. Harriet, loyal and concerned, agreed to drive Catherine or arrange a discreet car service so that her presence wouldn't stand out. Catherine had a wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, and a modest coat far from her usual high society attire. She hoped that by blending into the background, she could sneak into the spa and see who Sebastian was meeting. That night, Catherine barely slept. She ran through scenarios in her mind. What if she caught them kissing in a private suite? Would she confront Sebastian there, or would she quietly gather evidence and walk away? As she tossed and turned, her heart beat like a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The baby inside her stirred as if responding to her turmoil. Dawn brought fresh anxieties. Over breakfast, Sebastian seemed preoccupied, replying in curt sentences whenever she tried to speak. Catherine forced a neutral smile, wishing him luck at his supposed meeting. He kissed her cheek with a perfunctory gentleness before leaving. The moment she heard the front door close, she turned to Harriet, who nodded with understanding. They would wait a few hours, then set out in Harriet's modest sedan, hoping to remain undetected as they followed Sebastian's Mercedes. At 2:00 p.m., Harriet and Catherine sat in a parked sedan half a block away from Sebastian's office tower. The imposing steel and glass structure soared into the sky, a testament to Sebastian's success. Catherine, wearing a simple beige coat and a wide-brimmed hat to shield her face, watched through tinted windows. Butterflies raged in her stomach. "I see him," Harriet said softly. He's stepping out of the building now. Catherine's pulse quickened. She glimpsed Sebastian emerging through the revolving doors, impeccably dressed in a navy-tailored suit. A driver opened the door of Sebastian's black Mercedes, and he slid in smoothly. Moments later, the vehicle glided into the busy afternoon traffic. "Follow him," Catherine instructed. Harriet took a measured breath, then steered into the street. The city was bustling with midday commerce, but Harriet maintained a respectable distance, weaving carefully through the traffic. Catherine's heart hammered as they approached the upscale Riverview district, passing rows of high-end boutiques, art galleries, and quiet sidewalk cafes. She recognized the opulent building that hid the velvet magnolia behind its nondescript facade. Sure enough, the Mercedes pulled up to a private, gated entrance. A valet rushed out, opening Sebastian's door. Catherine pressed herself down in the seat, peering over the window's edge. She saw Sebastian step out, glancing around. Then a slender woman, wearing oversized sunglasses and a flowing silk scarf, emerged from another parked car and joined him at the spa's discreet doorway. Catherine's throat went dry. From her vantage point, she couldn't see the woman's face clearly, but her figure was unmistakably elegant. She was tall, with long legs and a poised posture that suggested confidence. Catherine clenched her hands, nails biting into her palms. This was no casual business meeting. No press, no photographers, just two people sneaking into a secretive place. Harriet pulled the car to the curb a safe distance away. "What do we do now?" she asked gently. Catherine could hardly speak. Her mind was an ocean of turmoil. The woman's identity remained uncertain, but suspicion burned brighter than ever. "I have to follow them. I'll use my membership card or say I'm meeting someone. Anything to get inside," she murmured. Harriet's eyes flickered with concern. "Let me park around the corner. I can wait, or come in with you." "No," Catherine said resolutely. "I need you on standby. If anything goes wrong, I'll text you." Harriet nodded, her expression tense, and they circled around until they found a discreet spot. Catherine exited the sedan, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She tugged the brim of her hat low and walked slowly, trying to blend in with the well-heeled clientele wandering the street. Every step felt like a betrayal, but the greater betrayal, she told herself, might be happening right under her nose. Outside the velvet magnolia, the door was guarded by a man in a crisp black suit who asked for her name. Catherine feigned confidence, claiming she was meeting a friend for a spa appointment. To her relief, the doorman checked a list on a sleek tablet, found the name Catherine Belmont, her maiden name still attached to some of her older social memberships, and waved her inside. The building's interior was plush and dimly lit, the air scented with lavender and verbena. A softly tinkling fountain added to the serene ambience, though Catherine's racing heart found no comfort in the spa's tranquility. She scanned the lobby for a sign of Sebastian or the mystery woman. The receptionist at the marble desk greeted her politely, offering a menu of treatments, but Catherine declined, muttering something about having an appointment. She moved deeper into the lounge area. Soft, ethereal music played overhead, and discreet staff in immaculate uniforms glided around with trays of infused water and herbal tea. Catherine's gaze traveled over luxurious velvet couches and plush carpets. A swirling sense of déjà vu struck her. She had once visited an exclusive spa with Sebastian on their anniversary. The memory twisted painfully as she considered he might be replicating those intimate moments now with another woman. After a few minutes of searching, Catherine noticed a corridor lined with shimmering drapes. She saw Sebastian slip past with the woman, heading toward private treatment rooms. Catherine ducked behind an ornamental plant, her heart hammering, her mind screaming that she shouldn't be here. But it was too late to turn back. She was about to witness the reality of whatever Sebastian was hiding. Catherine crept along the corridor, the plush carpet muffling her footsteps. She had no clear plan other than to remain out of sight until she discovered the truth. Doors along the hallway bore elegant plaques indicating specialized treatments: aromatherapy suite, hot stone retreat, couples massage sanctuary. Finally, Sebastian and the woman paused outside the door, labeled Rosewood Retreat. Catherine hid around the corner, peering carefully. As the woman slipped off her sunglasses, Catherine's breath caught in her throat. She recognized that face, though she struggled to place it immediately. Dark, glossy hair framed sharp cheekbones and full lips. A name sprang to Catherine's mind: Elena Moretti. Elena Moretti was a well-known socialite who had once dated a prominent politician's son, Jonathan Price. Catherine had seen her at several fundraisers and had even spoken to her briefly. Elena's aloof demeanor and rumored affairs had made her a frequent topic of hushed gossip. Could Elena be Sebastian's mistress? Catherine peered more closely. Sebastian and Elena exchanged a few whispered words. To Catherine's astonishment, Elena looked visibly upset, gesturing emphatically. Sebastian tried to calm her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Though Catherine couldn't hear the details, the dynamic seemed tense, not romantic. That observation, however, did little to quell the storm raging inside Catherine's heart. Sebastian ushered Elena into the Rosewood Retreat room. The door closed behind them. Catherine stood frozen, wanting to storm in and demand an explanation. Yet she remained paralyzed by the fear of what she might see, what she might hear. Just then, a spa attendant approached, forcing Catherine to glide back down the corridor and pretend to be studying the framed artwork on the wall. "Excuse me, madam," the attendant said politely. "May I help you find your suite?" Struggling to keep her composure, Catherine nodded. "Ah, yes. I'm here for a short facial treatment." She offered a tight smile, hoping to appear convincing. "Of course," the attendant responded. "If you proceed this way to the main lounge, we can arrange a room for you." Catherine's mind raced. She needed a plan to stay close to that door without raising suspicion. Slowly, she followed the attendant back to the lounge, making small talk about possible treatments. Her gaze flickered repeatedly toward the corridor. Time felt like it was stretching out. Every passing second threatened to unravel the final threads of her composure. While the attendant prepared some options, Catherine slipped away discreetly. She couldn't bear not knowing what was happening inside the Rosewood Retreat. She returned to the corridor, which now lay silent. Placing her ear against the door, she strained to make out any sound. At first, the thick walls yielded nothing. Then she heard muffled voices, Sebastian's low baritone and Elena's higher pitch. Fragments of conversation reached Catherine in disjointed pieces. Something about timing, money, and cannot let her find out. Catherine's heart dropped. Each snippet reinforced her fears. They were talking about a secret that Sebastian worried Catherine might discover. Was it an affair they were discussing? Was Elena pregnant too? That horrifying thought flashed through Catherine's mind, making her feel faint. A rush of footsteps made her jump. She hastily backed away from the door, dashing down the hallway to hide in a small alcove. A spa manager, tall and poised, walked by. Catherine pressed herself against the wall, waiting until the manager disappeared around a corner. She exhaled shakily. She couldn't continue eavesdropping without risking exposure. Just then, the door to the Rosewood Retreat opened a sliver. Catherine peeked around the corner. She glimpsed Sebastian emerging alone. He stepped into the corridor, running a hand through his hair as if frustrated. Elena did not follow immediately. Catherine's entire body tensed, unsure whether Sebastian would come her way or return to the lounge. To her relief, Sebastian moved in the opposite direction, heading toward a door marked Executive Office. Catherine seized the opportunity. She darted toward the slightly ajar rosewood retreat door, breath hitching in her throat. If she could confront Elena alone, she might extract the truth. Summoning her courage, Catherine pushed the door open wider and slipped inside. The rosewood retreat was an opulent private suite, draped in warm, earthy tones, dark wood paneling, plush seating, and a faint scent of jasmine incense. Elena stood by an ornate vanity mirror, removing her scarf. She spun around when Catherine entered, her eyes going wide with shock. For a moment, neither spoke. Catherine closed the door behind her quietly, steeling herself. "Elena Moretti," she said in a trembling voice. "I know who you are." Elena's expression shifted from surprise to guarded composure. "Catherine Saunders," she replied, her voice smooth as silk. "I didn't expect you here." Catherine's fists clenched at her sides. She was acutely aware of the child inside her, and how every second in this place felt like a threat to the stability she'd longed for. "I want to know what's going on between you and my husband. You owe me an explanation." For a moment, Elena's eyes flickered with empathy before they hardened. "I owe you nothing," she answered curtly, but her voice betrayed nervousness. "You shouldn't be here. Sebastian, how dare you say his name as if you're the one with the right to be with him?" Catherine shot back. Anger and betrayal welled in her chest. "Tell me now, are you and Sebastian lovers?" Elena's lips parted, but she hesitated, seeming to weigh how much to reveal. "Our relationship is complicated," she finally said, carefully choosing her words. "If Sebastian hasn't told you, I'm not sure it's my place to disclose everything." Catherine fought the urge to scream. "I heard you both talking about secrets and money, and your meeting in a private spa behind my back. That hardly seems innocent. I'm pregnant with his child, and I will not be kept in the dark." Elena stepped forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Catherine, I realize you have every reason to be furious. But trust me when I say this is bigger than a simple affair. There are things Sebastian is trying to handle, things that might affect your family's reputation, your future." Catherine's stomach churned. Was this a blackmail situation? Or was Elena prying money from Sebastian for some hush-hush reason? Catherine's anger flared even brighter at the thought that her husband might be paying off another woman. "Stop speaking in riddles," Catherine demanded. "I deserve the truth." Elena's eyes flickered with something like pity. She stepped closer, dropping her voice even lower, as if terrified of being overheard. "Very well. Just know that I was once involved with someone from the Martinelli Corporation. Sebastian discovered that individual was embezzling funds and forging documents that could implicate him. Sebastian needed my help to trace the money trail." Catherine's heart pounded. The words sounded almost too convenient, like a well-rehearsed excuse. "That doesn't explain why you're meeting in secret, or why you both seemed so intimate." Elena exhaled shakily. "He didn't want you dragged into the mess. He suspected there would be retaliation. I used my connections to gather evidence. But I also have a complicated past, Catherine. My involvement with Jonathan Price, my reputation. Sebastian was afraid that if the press caught wind of our meetings, it would create a scandal. That's all." The revelation thundered through Catherine's mind. She struggled to reconcile it with the rumors she'd heard, the hairpin, Sebastian's cold distance, and the fleeting glimpses of tension. Could it be that Sebastian was merely protecting her from a business scandal? Then why hadn't he told her anything? Elena continued, her voice tinged with earnestness. "You have to believe me. I wouldn't lie about something that could so easily be disproven. Sebastian is dedicated to you and your child. He never speaks ill of you, never implies dissatisfaction. He's only anxious about your safety." Catherine stared, her thoughts swirling. Her voice trembled. "Then what about your argument just now? I heard enough to know you were upset." Elena shook her head, letting out a frustrated sigh. "Because the plan to expose the Martinelli corruption has grown more complicated. The man behind it, Richard Martinelli, the CEO, holds a lot of power. Sebastian insisted I find additional proof, and I said it's too dangerous. That's what we were discussing. Doubt clung to Catherine's heart. Could this all be a meticulously crafted lie? Or was the simpler truth that Sebastian and Elena were engaged in an illicit affair? She needed Sebastian's version to verify. Until then, the confusion gnawed at her. Before Catherine could question further, the door creaked open. Sebastian stepped in, halting mid-stride when he saw Catherine, his face blanched. "Catherine?" he whispered in disbelief. The swirl of emotions in his eyes, shock, concern, and a hint of guilt, was enough to make her heart twist. She glared at him, tears brimming. "We're having this out now, Sebastian. I followed you, I thought. God, I thought you were having an affair with Elena Moretti. She says you're working together on some kind of investigation involving Martinelli. I want the truth, Sebastian, right now." Sebastian's expression was a turbulent mix of surprise and resignation. He closed the suite door carefully, his voice low and urgent. "Kat, I can explain everything, but we need to leave here. This place isn't safe. There could be listening devices or prying eyes." Elena nodded, gathering her things swiftly. "I've said all I can, Sebastian. The rest is up to you." She shot Catherine a quick, apologetic glance before slipping out of the room. Catherine turned to Sebastian, confusion and anger etched into her features. "You're telling me we have to run off somewhere to talk? Do you have any idea what I've been going through?" "I'm pregnant, Sebastian. I've been hearing rumors, seeing signs, hairpins, secret appointments." Sebastian's shoulders slumped. He reached out to touch her arm, but Catherine recoiled. "I'm sorry," he murmured, regret coating every syllable. "I never intended to hurt you. You have every right to be angry. Let's go someplace we can be sure of our privacy, and I'll explain." Torn between fury and the desperate hope that he might be telling the truth, Catherine nodded stiffly. She allowed Sebastian to guide her out. The spa staff, ever discreet, only offered them polite smiles as they left. None betrayed knowledge of Catherine's unauthorized presence. In the parking lot, Harriet spotted them and opened the sedan door for Catherine. She cast Sebastian a worried look, but Catherine managed a faint nod of reassurance that she was all right. Sebastian insisted they go together in his car, but Catherine refused, preferring the separation. Sebastian relented and instructed Harriet to follow him to one of his private apartments on the outskirts of the city, a place he rarely used, presumably for emergency business dealings. The drive there was tense. Catherine sat in the back seat, her mind swirling with the conflicting stories. Harriet ventured a gentle question. "Are you all right, Miss S. Saunders?" Catherine stared out the window at the passing city lights, evening descending upon them. "I'm not sure," she answered honestly. She felt numb, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. At last, they arrived at an unassuming high-rise building. Sebastian parked in the underground garage and led the way to a well-furnished, modern apartment on the 10th floor. Harriet waited in the car at Catherine's request. She wanted to face Sebastian alone. Inside, the apartment's minimalistic decor contrasted sharply with the opulence of their estate. A single large window offered a sweeping view of Oakbridge's skyline. Sebastian flipped on a few lamps, revealing a neat living space with a small bar, a leather sofa, and a glass coffee table. Catherine stood rigidly, arms folded over her chest, waiting. Sebastian ran a trembling hand through his hair. "Cat, please sit. Let me explain." With a sigh, Catherine settled onto the sofa, eyeing her husband warily. "Start talking." He remained standing, pacing as though haunted by his own decisions. "You know the Martinelli deal I've been working on. I discovered discrepancies, large sums of money going missing, offshore accounts. I confronted Richard Martinelli, and let's just say he's not a man who likes to be cornered. He threatened me, implied that harming my reputation or worse would be easy for him. Catherine pressed a hand to her forehead. That's serious. Why didn't you just go to the authorities? Sebastian exhaled. Because the evidence was circumstantial. And Martinelli has connections everywhere, including law enforcement. I needed concrete proof of wrongdoing, something so incriminating he couldn't wriggle free. That's where Elena Moretti came in. Catherine frowned. Why her? She has ties to the Martinelli family through an old relationship. She knew some of the shell companies they use. When I discovered that, I reached out. She wanted a substantial fee for her cooperation. Catherine's jaw dropped. You were paying her? Yes, Sebastian admitted, his tone laced with guilt. I was funneling money into an account for Elena so she'd provide me with confidential data. She also said she was risking her life to do this, so she demanded I keep everything under the radar. No one could find out, especially you, because Martinelli might track any moves that look suspicious. Like me confiding in my wife. Catherine's anger flared. You could have told me anyway. I'm your partner, Sebastian. I'm carrying your child. Did you really think I couldn't handle the truth? His eyes brimmed with regret. I was trying to protect you. I know you, Kat. You'd worry yourself sick and maybe let something slip inadvertently. We're in a precarious position with Martinelli. I thought secrecy would shield you. A slow, ragged exhale escaped Catherine. All those times I saw you with Elena. The hairpin, was it hers? Sebastian shook his head. I'm not sure about the hairpin. Maybe it fell out of her purse when we were discussing documents in my study. I honestly never noticed. But Catherine, I swear on our unborn child, I'm not having an affair with her. My only goal was to ensure that I could finalize the Martinelli deal or expose him without destroying our future. Catherine studied him for a long moment, searching his face. There was a wounded sincerity in his eyes, and yet the pain of feeling betrayed wouldn't vanish so easily. Why all the secrecy at the Velvet Magnolia, though? He sighed. Elena insisted on meeting in places where we wouldn't be recognized together. She thought the Velvet Magnolia's confidentiality would be perfect. I agreed because I was desperate. I needed her intel. I wanted to close the Martinelli loop before the baby arrived. Sebastian stepped closer, his voice subdued. I'm sorry, Kat. I've been so wrapped up in strategies and subterfuge that I overlooked how you might feel. And you've been dealing with all this stress alone while pregnant. That was never my intention. Catherine wanted to cry out of relief, out of anger, out of the ache that still gnawed at her. She pulled her coat closer around her, as though shielding herself from the emotional storm swirling in the room. You should have told me something, she repeated, her voice trembling. I've been worried sick, thinking you were betraying our marriage. The rumors, they nearly drove me insane. Sebastian sank onto the edge of a chair, burying his face in his hands. I know, and I hate myself for it. But every time I considered telling you, the risk weighed on me. I couldn't forgive myself if something happened to you or our child because of my entanglements with Martinelli. Silence stretched between them for a moment, thick with residual tension. Catherine's mind reeled. If Sebastian's story held up, then the last few weeks of mistrust and heartbreak had been the product of secrecy for an entirely different reason than an affair. Yes, he had lied, but perhaps out of misguided protection rather than lust. The question remained, could their bond recover? Catherine decided she needed proof of Sebastian's claims. She demanded he show her any relevant documents, emails, bank transfers, the clandestine communications with Elena. Initially hesitant, Sebastian realized that if he wanted Catherine's trust, he had to lay everything bare. Over the next hour, Sebastian opened a secure laptop in the apartment. He showed her encrypted message threads with Elena discussing Martinelli's shell corporations. Catherine saw the details of suspicious wire transfers, flagged account numbers, and Elena's requests for payment. She felt a strange mix of disgust at the scope of corruption and relief that Sebastian's story was indeed consistent with the evidence. "Why do all this alone?" she asked quietly. "We could have hired private investigators or used your legal team." Sebastian shook his head. "Martinelli has infiltrated various institutions. I wasn't sure who to trust. Hiring the wrong investigator could lead back to you, and I wouldn't risk it." Catherine's anger was melting, replaced by a somber weariness. She recognized the sincerity in her husband's eyes, the gravity of the situation. Maybe he had truly believed he was protecting her. But a wound still throbbed in her chest, the sense of being sidelined, excluded from life-altering decisions. Sebastian stood, crossing the room. He gently pressed his hand to Catherine's abdomen, where their child rested. "Everything I do is for you and our baby," he murmured. "I know I've made mistakes, but please believe that my love for you has never wavered." Catherine swallowed hard. Tears welled, but she refused to break down just yet. "Show me how you plan to resolve this," she said, her tone more determined. "I'm your wife. Let me in." Sebastian nodded, relief flickering across his face. "I will. Going forward, no more secrets." They spent the next few hours discussing strategy, how Sebastian hoped to confront Martinelli with the evidence once it was ironclad, forcing him to back out of the merger quietly. If Martinelli resisted, Sebastian would hand over the documentation to a trusted federal contact he'd recently established. The entire scenario felt larger than life, and Catherine realized with dismay that if Martinelli learned of her involvement, the danger could escalate. By the time they left the apartment, darkness had fully settled across the city. Harriet, ever patient, was waiting in the car. Catherine told her they were returning home together in Sebastian's Mercedes. Harriet could follow or go back independently. The older woman gave Catherine a relieved hug before departing, clearly sensing the shift in Catherine's demeanor, less frantic suspicion, more sober determination. In the car with Sebastian, Catherine stared at the city lights flashing by. She recalled the swirl of rumors among socialites, the ominous sense of betrayal that had haunted her. Now, a new worry filled her thoughts. Martinelli was powerful, unscrupulous. If push came to shove, how far would he go to silence Sebastian? Sebastian noticed her tension. "We'll get through this," he said, taking her hand gently. "Once this is resolved, we can breathe again." She clasped his hand, the first sign of physical affection in weeks. "We'd better," she whispered, "for our baby's sake." Over the following week, Catherine and Sebastian continued their public routines while secretly collaborating on how to finalize the evidence against Martinelli. Sebastian took a step back from private meetings with Elena. Their interactions became strictly digital or through untraceable phone calls, ensuring minimal risk of exposure. Catherine felt her anger at Sebastian gradually recede, replaced by a cautious sense of unity. They were allies now, forging a path through treacherous territory. Yet, tension clung to every moment, as if disaster lurked around the corner. At home, Harriet took care to respect their privacy, but offered silent support, always ready to assist. Catherine noticed the telltale signs of Harriet's concern, a knitted brow, anxious glances, whenever Catherine left the estate. Meanwhile, the pregnancy advanced. Catherine's belly grew rounder, and she made frequent visits to her obstetrician, Dr. Vanessa Green, who commended her on staying relatively stress-free. Catherine managed a weak smile at that, wondering how Dr. Green would react if she knew the swirling chaos in Catherine's personal life. Still, feeling her baby's kicks offered a poignant reminder of what truly mattered. Word had spread that Catherine and Sebastian seemed to be at odds. Those glimpses of coldness in public events hadn't gone unnoticed. Rumors were unstoppable in high society. Veronica Campbell cornered Catherine at a charity luncheon, inquiring about the status of her marriage. Catherine brushed her off politely, attributing any tension to Sebastian's heavy workload. She refused to feed the gossip machine. Sophia Carter, on the other hand, was a safe harbour. Catherine confided the general outline of Martinelli's scandal, though she spared the more dangerous details. Sophia was horrified by the depth of the threat and promised to keep everything strictly confidential. Sebastian's mistakes aside, Sophia said gently, it seems like he had your well-being in mind, however misguided. That's something at least. Catherine nodded. Yes, but the damage from secrets is real. We're trying to rebuild. Amid all this, Catherine found herself reflecting on how love sometimes requires leaps of faith even when trust has been shaken. She saw remorse in Sebastian's eyes, saw how he doted on her at home, preparing her favorite meals or massaging her swollen feet without complaint. Each gesture was a step toward healing, though it would take time for the scars of suspicion to fade completely. Everything changed on a crisp autumn afternoon. Catherine was in the solarium of the Saunders estate, enjoying a lull in the day, when Sebastian burst in, face pale. "What's wrong?" she asked, alarmed. "We have the final piece of evidence," he said quietly, handing her a manila folder. Inside were bank statements and email correspondence that unmistakably tied Richard Martinelli to illegal activities, embezzlement, money laundering and bribery. Catherine felt a ripple of relief. "So this is it? We can confront Martinelli?" Sebastian nodded. "I'm meeting him tonight at the Vanguard Lounge. It's a public place, but discreet enough for us to talk. With this evidence, he should be forced to back down from the merger. He won't risk the press or the authorities seeing this." Fear pricked Catherine's chest. "Is that safe?" Sebastian shrugged. "He won't dare do anything overt in public, and once he realizes I have him cornered, hopefully he'll see reason. I just wanted you to know what's happening." Catherine bit her lip. "Do you need me to be there?" A ghost of a smile touched Sebastian's lips. "I appreciate the offer, but no. I want you out of harm's way. Stay here. Let Harriet and the security staff keep an eye on you. With luck, this ends tonight." She nodded, hugging him tightly, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "Please be careful." He kissed her forehead. "I will." That evening, Catherine paced the halls anxiously while Sebastian left for his meeting. Harriet offered tea to calm her nerves, but her hands shook so much she could barely hold the cup. The hours ticked by like a slow, torturous metronome. When her phone finally buzzed, Catherine snatched it up. A message from Sebastian. "Leaving now. All good. On my way home." Her breath whooshed out in a wave of relief. Martinelli must have folded. The crisis was over. She allowed herself a small, hopeful smile, but then came an odd sense of foreboding. Why hadn't Sebastian given more detail? She glanced at the clock. Perhaps he was simply being cautious. She willed her heart to steady. A half-hour later, Catherine's phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Sebastian. The voice on the other end belonged to a man she didn't recognize. He identified himself as Dr. Frederick Mills from Oakbridge General Hospital. Her world spun as he calmly explained that Sebastian had been in a car accident on his way home from the Vanguard Lounge. Time stood still as Harriet rushed Catherine to the hospital. The baby kicked wildly inside her, sensing her panic. Once they arrived, a flurry of nurses and doctors guided Catherine through the bustling corridors to a private waiting area. She could barely register faces or names, so consumed was she by fear and dread. Eventually, Dr. Mills emerged, looking exhausted but steady. "Mrs. Saunders, your husband was in a serious collision. He was unconscious when the paramedics arrived. We've stabilized him, but there's head trauma, and we need to conduct more tests to assess internal injuries." Catherine collapsed into a chair, tears streaming. Harriet pressed a reassuring hand to her shoulder. "Will he be all right?" Catherine managed to ask, her voice cracking. "Doctor?" Mills's expression was compassionate but guarded. "It's too early to say for certain. He's in critical condition. The next 24 hours are crucial." Catherine's world threatened to crumble. She'd spent so many weeks believing Sebastian was cheating, only to discover a dangerous plot that he'd tried to shield her from. Now, with everything nearly resolved, fate had dealt them this catastrophic blow. She thought of Martinelli. Was this truly an accident? Or had Martinelli orchestrated something? The mere suspicion made her blood run cold. Sophia arrived soon after, offering to contact family members and coordinate anything Catherine needed. Catherine tried to remain composed for the sake of her unborn baby, but the horror and stress gnawed at her every breath. Finally, she was allowed a brief visit. Inside the ICU, Sebastian lay motionless, hooked up to monitors and the fourth lines, his face battered and bruised. Catherine's heart twisted with guilt. She took his hand in hers, whispering, "Please come back to me. We need you. Our baby needs you." The hours blurred together. Catherine dozed fitfully in a chair outside his room, Harriet nearby. Around dawn, Sebastian regained partial consciousness. Doctors rushed in to examine him. Catherine overheard snatches of medical terminology: contusions, swelling, possible concussion. But the gist was that Sebastian could speak, though weakly, and recognized Catherine. She hurried to his bedside, tears unstoppable. "Sebastian, thank God!" His eyelids fluttered. "Cat, don't cry," he murmured. "I'm okay, or I will be." She pressed a trembling kiss to his forehead, emotions flooding her. The near loss had shattered her anger, her resentment, leaving only an overwhelming relief. Whatever secrets had caused tension before seemed insignificant compared to the raw fragility of life. The investigation into Sebastian's car accident remained inconclusive. The police concluded it might have been a drunk driver crossing lanes, but Catherine and Sebastian harbored doubts about Martinelli's possible involvement. However, in the aftermath, Martinelli abruptly withdrew from the deal, citing health and family reasons, and no longer posed a threat. Whether it was genuine fear of exposure or guilt over some orchestrated hit, neither Catherine nor Sebastian had the energy to press further. Their priority became healing and moving forward. Sebastian spent 2 weeks in the hospital, recovering from surgery to reduce swelling in his head. Catherine was by his side every day, reading to him, holding his hand through painful therapy sessions. During that time, their bond grew stronger than it had been in months. The near tragedy reminded them both of the love that had first drawn them together, overshadowing the complexities of high society dealings and corporate schemes. When Sebastian was finally discharged, Catherine guided him gently into their home, Harriet waiting with a bouquet of fresh flowers. There were new security measures in place, courtesy of Sebastian's legal team, ensuring that if Martinelli or anyone else attempted retribution, they would face swift consequences. The darkest storm seemed to have passed. A few weeks later, Catherine began experiencing contractions early one morning. She rushed to the hospital with Sebastian, still bandaged but mobile, clutching her hand. It was a turbulent yet miraculous day. By nightfall, they welcomed their daughter, Arabella Saunders, into the world. Sebastian wept openly when he held Arabella for the first time, pressing his face to the downy softness of her head. "She's perfect," he whispered, voice shaking with emotion. Catherine smiled through tears of her own. In that moment, every ordeal they'd endured felt distant and faint. Their marriage had been tested, battered by secrets and near tragedy, but here they were complete, with a child in their arms. In the weeks that followed, Elena Moretti quietly slipped out of Oakbridge's social circles. Some said she moved overseas to escape the fallout of the Martinelli scandal. Catherine never saw her again, but on one occasion she received a single text from an unknown number. "I'm glad Sebastian's okay. Best wishes for your family." Catherine responded with a simple thank you Letting the past rest, life settled into a new, gentler rhythm. Sebastian gave Catherine a heartfelt apology once more, promising transparency and partnership above all else. Catherine, in turn, acknowledged that her own fears had led her to act impulsively, but she was grateful that it had revealed the true nature of Sebastian's secrets. Together, they focused on creating a nurturing environment for Arabella, determined not to let the ghosts of mistrust haunt them again. Even in high society, where gossip thrived and fortunes rose and fell, the Saunders name survived. Stories circulated about Sebastian's near-fatal accident and rumoured conflicts with certain business tycoons, but Catherine and Sebastian faced these rumours hand in hand. Their shared ordeal had forged a deeper connection, a renewal of vows unspoken but deeply felt. And so, the millionaire husband who had taken his supposed mistress to an exclusive spa was not the philanderer Catherine had feared. Instead, he was a man caught in a dangerous game of corporate intrigue, willing to endure secret deals and hush-hush meetings to protect his family. Catherine's pursuit of the truth had tested her faith, but it had also led them to confront the underlying fragility of life, love and trust. They emerged stronger, bound by a promise that no matter the storm, they would face it together. Their story, rife with drama and unexpected twists, became a cautionary tale among their circle. Never assume, always communicate, and remember that the greatest wealth is the unbreakable bond of family. Thank you for journeying with us through the labyrinth of love, betrayal, and redemption in Millionaire Husband Takes Mistress to the Spa, Pregnant Wife Follows Them and Finds the Truth. As you've seen, secrets can be more than just whispers of the heart. They can forge alliances or shatter trust. Catherine's determination proved that sometimes we must risk everything we hold dear to uncover the truth, and in doing so, we might find a deeper understanding of love's resilience. Sebastian's near tragedy underscored how fragile life can be, pushing them both toward a reckoning that ultimately strengthened their marriage and gave a new meaning to family. If this story gripped you, sparked an emotional chord, or simply entertained you with its twists and turns, please show your support. Like this video, share it with friends who love real-life drama, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Your support means the world to us. Thank you.